Wait, is that a clown or is that a woman? Hello everyone! Today we're gonna watch 20 scariest horror games that made us feel helpless!
Horror games are pretty abundant nowadays, and as you might expect, that means there's quite a few pretty darn good ones.
Yep.
And we put together a list of ones that really deserve your time.
Like, the thing is, I really love watching other people play horror games. I love watching horror movies. I do not like playing horror games myself, especially like if there are single player games. Co-op games, okay. Single player games, I'm a giant baby.
Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on
Hi.
gameranx, 20 of the scariest horror games you need to play. Starting off at number 20, it's Visage. Whether or not you find something
wait,
scary
it's called
is
Visage?
kind of a deeply personal thing. Some games
I'm always like, visage? Okay, it's visage. Got it.
that other people might find terrifying may do nothing for you, and sometimes games that most people wouldn't even describe as horror games leave you shaken. There's really no rhyme or reason to it. Everyone's just going to have a different reaction to any given game. All those random thoughts floating around tend to come together
that's a baby.
to form some kind of...
Wait, that's a baby. Also, is this like one of those walking simulators? Or is it something like this one? I've never played this myself and didn't really watch people play this.
understood consensus, whether something is considered scary or not.
It's a
There's
bubble.
usually some kind of baseline opinion on these types of things, but with Visage, opinions are all over the place. There's people who think it's the scariest game of all time. There's people who it just did nothing for them. It's the sort of thing you see for any given horror game. There's always a few outlying opinions out there, but with Visage, there really doesn't seem to be a general consensus. And that's the reason why it's number 20 on this list.
Interesting.
For certain individuals, it is terrifying,
that's a
and for
person.
others, it's nothing special. I think the difference of opinion mostly comes down to what chapter you experience first. One of the interesting things about this game is its structure. It's non-linear. You can do most of the chapters in any order depending on what you do in the house.
Oh, okay. That means I can be a giant baby and just play the baby ones that are not so scary. Got it.
Like the people who stumble into the Dolores chapter first tend to be terrified, and people who do the other chapters tend to not necessarily
Okay,
be quite
so
as scared.
don't look for
this
Dolores.
This is a game heavily inspired by the likes of PT, and it's able to capture a lot of the same
okay, so
atmosphere
it is
that
a
did,
walking
with
simulator.
the hyper-realistic but quote-unquote off house setting, and the obscure progression that makes it difficult to know what you're supposed to do at any given time. For some, the mysteriousness of the game is a strong point. For others, it's a constant source of frustration. If it hits, though, it seems to really hit. The game's got amazing atmosphere, and certain sections of it, in my opinion, are master classes in building tension in a horror game.
Oh, this is
but the rest of the game doesn't necessarily live up to the promise of the earlier chapters. Still, if you are one of those horror fiends out there, it's a game worth checking out, even if you do end up giving up on the game at some point, because some of the stuff that works is really, really fantastic.
Oh. Okay, what is it? Oh, no. Wait, that's it? Wait, is someone laughing or is this just a clown? What is going on? Eh?
And number 19 is the Dead Space remake. The original Dead Space is, of course, a horror classic, but the
Oh, I never played the remake, guys. I played the first Dead Space, like the normal one, and the second one, but I never played the remake. Huh.
recent remake is an improvement on it in pretty much every way. The thing with Dead Space is that it takes a lot of inspiration from Resident Evil 4, the third-person camera, the inventory management, the shop.
Never played any Resident
It's all
Evil games.
very
Wait, I
gamey
played
in a way
Code
that
Veronica.
You could say takes away from the horror atmosphere. Like, it's kind of an action game in a horror shell. And for some people, any kind of agency and the ability to defend yourself diminishes the atmosphere. I'll quickly note, not for me. This game's friggin' scary. Like, it doesn't matter how much agency I have. Grotesque stuff popping out of me when I least expected, an endless atmosphere of cosmic dread. I mean, this game gets intense as hell when it wants to be.
That's
the
so
Ishimura
true.
is an all-time classic horror setting. It's Alien if the spaceship was somehow even more oppressive. What makes this game stand out compared to other sci-fi horror games is the psychological angle. You're not just fighting the mutated corpses of the former crew, you're also fighting your own mind, and one thing the remake does very well is make the mental strain on the main character, Isaac Clarke, a lot
Oh my god. Isaac, this guy, I feel so sorry for him, and he's always listening to his dad, not dad, dad wife. It's so scary, so
More
creepy.
visceral. It's also just a better game than the original in a few important ways.
Oh,
There's now a
okay.
reason to use more than just the plasma cutter, for instance. The difference in difficulty isn't actually huge. You could go back and play the first Dead Space and still have a great time, period. But it's enough of an improvement. I would recommend the remake over the original, especially on PC. We're getting the old game to work on modern hardware is a little bit tricky. What makes Dead Space so great is how these developers just get horror. They know exactly the right time to deploy a distant scream or the sound of something moving in a duct, when to put the lights out or throw out a jump scare. They know when to use restraint, too, and subvert your expectations, which only makes the enemies seem more unpredictable and dangerous. Also, in
Wait, now I'm like, have I played the remake? No, I played the normal one, didn't I? Because the enemy I just saw, I remember that I died a lot there. Like,
the remake, there are some semi-randomized encounters, which, oh boy, does that go a long way. Dead Space is a highly polished horror game, and the sequel is just as good. In fact, it might have a few more standout horror sequences that are freakier than anything in the original game, but overall, it's a less scary experience. You can't go wrong with either game. It's just that the remake is the newest and shiniest one, and hopefully they remake the second as well.
Maybe your death will tip the balance.
no! Okay, bye. Eh? What's behind? Oh. Hi there. What is that? Ooh. What is that weapon? Wait, I never. Wait, was this one in the original? I never had this one, I swear. Ooh. What is that?
What? Just do it!
Do it!
It's open! Go!
Go!
At number 18 is Outlast. The first Outlast game was real lightning in a bottle stuff. It came out at just the right time to make a huge impact. With the rise of games like Amnesia and those Slenderman games, people were itching for a high-quality, helpless horror experience, and Outlast gave it to us in spades. Armed with only a camera, you play as a journalist investigating the mysterious goings-on at Mount Massive Asylum. The opening minutes are full of dread as you slowly make your way inside.
The thing is, I played this not last year, the year before for Halloween. Oh my god. Oh my god. Like, the first couple of hours, it was like really, really scary. And then I got to part with, what was it? A professor? Some weird kind of doctor where you had to hide from him. And I died so many times to him. I can't even count on all my fingers. I don't know how many times I died to him. And starting from that point, the game wasn't scary to me anymore. Like, literally, I was like, oh, here we go again. But yeah, it's kind of cool game.
Seemingly abandoned facility, only to discover in horror that the inmates are running the asylum. You have no way to defend yourself, and your only options are to avoid the vicious lunatics wandering the asylum
But you have a
halls
camera.
and run for dear life if someone catches you.
And you can
What makes
look
the
at
game
their
even more tense is how
peepees.
unpredictable these guys are. Sometimes you'll just find them hanging around and they don't react to you at all. Sometimes
true.
they attack out of nowhere, so there's tension to pretty much everything you do. Outlast might at sometimes rely a little too hard on the gross out horror and jump scares, but the asylum setting is perfectly realized, and the game is always mixing the scenario up, so it doesn't get stale, honestly. This is another one of those games that does start to lose a bit of its potency later in the game.
Exactly,
but not
see?
a lot.
This is
It's
what I
mostly
meant.
really intense and a pretty frightening experience, even if it's not super smart. It's just scary in a way that few games have ever really managed.
Do not look at the peepees. I repeat. Do not look at the peepees.
At number 17
Okay.
is Amnesia,
Didn't look.
the Bunker. This newest entry in the Amnesia series
Never
is a
played
simple
this
but
one.
terrifying premise. You play as a soldier during World War I who finds themselves trapped in an underground bunker with something that wants you dead.
Something.
Unlike the first Amnesia, which is mostly a linear, highly scripted experience, The Bunker is the developers trying something new. They take some cues from modern horror classics by making this a more systematic experience. There's resources to collect. You actually do have a gun to use to defend yourself, and a generator can be powered on, which turns lights on in certain sections of the bunker. Right from the start, you know your goal. It's to get to the tools you need to blow open the bunker and escape. But
hell
doing it is
yeah.
easier said than done because you've got a lot to contend to with the monster that's down there with you. How this thing moves around is basically random. It's unpredictable and terrifying for the first few hours. To make matters worse, even though you do have a few tools to defend yourself, like a pistol and a flashlight, the light has to be hand cranked to build up charge. And it's slow and noisy as hell, while reloading the pistol, or even using it normally, is also slow and intentional.
Yeah, I hate that, but my chat has told me to play this game and I don't wanna. I even threw it from my wish list on Steam. I don't wanna. Especially now that he said the monster that's running around is super random. Hell no.
Clunky. Having more options than just run and hide makes this game actually more tense than your standard sneak and peek horror, at least at first, before you really start to figure it out. You're constantly weighing options, considering what's the best course of action, and you're forced to always worry about the small amount of resources the game affords you. All that combined with the oppressive interior of the bunker and its confusing layout make Amnesia the Bunker a pretty tense and brutal experience.
Brutal? Hell no. See, this is why I don't want to play this. Brutal? No, 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 no. I would just be running like this. Oh, there's something somewhere. Wait, is the monster stupid?
And number 16 is Anatomy, a game that proves it doesn't take much to make something horrifying.
Which one?
You don't need jump scares, freaky monsters, or creepy sounds to be scary. All you need is a lot of darkness, some unnerving narration, and a few weird pictures on the walls. That's Anatomy, the scariest game that, depending on how you interpret it, isn't really a horror game at all. There's zero jump scares, there's no monsters, there's nothing in the game that can kill you. It's just a 20-minute abstract experience where you wander around a house, pick up a few tapes, listen to some narration, and it just ends.
Ew.
It's as simple as a game can be, yet it manages to be one of the creepiest games ever made.
Wait.
It's a game where your mind fills in the blanks. Every step you're just waiting for something to jump out at you from the darkness, or some kind of loud noise to interrupt the nearly dead silence, and it never comes. It feels like it's building up to something. The usual catharsis of a big scare, but it doesn't ever happen. It just leaves you really uneasy.
Oh god, I hate that. I hate that. You're just sitting there, you're clamping up, you're like, oh, something's gonna happen, something's gonna happen. It isn't never happening. I hate that. I hate that. No, no, no.
There's gonna be people who play this and shrug their shoulders and wonder what the big deal is. But if you let yourself get immersed in it, it's one of the most frightening games of all time. And they pulled it off without a single real scare.
Oh. Okay, so we're just listening to cassette tapes.
The anatomy of the house is such that this analogy is less superficial than at first it
Ooh, I hate that voice. Oh, it's creepy.
If we were to dissect a house as we might a human cadaver, we would find ourselves able to isolate and describe its various appendages and their functions in a decidedly anatomical fashion. There is even a fair number of direct comparisons to be drawn between those organs of a house and those of a human body.
Okay. Didn't understand.
Number 15 is Devotion. This game deserves to be known beyond its controversy.
Oh my god, Devotion. That's like the first time I got into contact with like speedrunners. I watched GDQ, AGDQ, I don't know. And there were people running horror games as speedrunners. And then I started following this guy and he was playing Devotion. Holy hell. This is, this game is something. Most people are aware of it
only because the developer pulled it off the internet after it was revealed that an artist snuck in an Easter egg insulting the president of China.
Yep,
for a while, the game couldn't be purchased anywhere, but now at least you can get it off the developer's website, and I'd highly recommend it if you're into psychological horror. Another game without traditional jump scares is primarily just a walking simulator, but what makes this game so effective is the story. Talking about it at all will give away what makes it so effective, but the general overview is you play as a father reliving the memories of his sick daughter. He's willing to do anything to save her, and that's
literally
where things get stranger
anything.
and more horrifying. The gameplay's basic. You mostly just walk and move the story forward, but the story's so disturbing but relatable that it still lingers in my mind. It's not a long game or mechanically complex, but the presentation is excellent, and the story really sticks with you in a way that few horror games manage. It's a game that confronts the player with a lot of unpleasant questions with no real answers.
But it's really good. Oh, hi! Hi there! Oh, wait, it's just floating. It's just floating. Look at it. Hi. Not scary at all. Totally normal. What? Oh. Okay. Okay. Not creepy at all. What the hell is that? Whoa!
And number 14 is Signalis. This modern-day throwback to the PlayStation 1 era of survival horror. Could have just been a hollow exercise in nostalgia, but Signalis
Oh god, I rage quit this game. I was too stupid for this game. I rage quit it.
has a very unique vision, even while you can clearly see its many inspirations. There's Resident Evil, some of Silent Hill's strangeness and psychological horror, and even a bit of fear effect with its cyberpunk setting and stylish characters. All these elements come together and create something that somehow feels pretty fresh. Almost everything in Signalis is vague: who you are, what your objective is, where you are. It's all very disorienting, and it seems like you're in the real world, but what the hell are these weird meat monster things? I don't know. There's flashbacks to another character. Are you on a different planet? Is this a different universe? Everything is in question and very little
it
is
didn't
made
get
obvious
very
by the
far.
end. It's a game where you can fight back, but they keep the tension high by giving you an extremely limited inventory. I think the game has expanded on it somewhat since it originally came out, but
Oh, I think that now that he mentioned the limited inventory, I think that was one of the points why I quit this game. I never got really far. I think I was like 5, 6-ish hours in, something like this.
you still can't carry that much. So you have to be selective about what you bring with you.
Ew.
Just as you have to be selective about which enemies you kill, because you're not going to be able to clear them all out. It's a challenging game that's borderline frustrating, but it's so well paced and smartly designed. It's
See,
easy to
borderline
overlook that
frustrating. It
stuff.
is
It's not always the
frustrating.
scariest game. It tends to ramp up the horror every once in a while, rather than go full scary all the time. But the game is so ethereal and strange, it makes the horror more effective, even if you have no idea what's actually going on.
Yeah, what's going on? I'm thinking, oh yeah, right, there was a lot of German in here. I remember there was so much German in here. I had fun reading all of that. But yeah, what's going on here? Well, oh, pick up the spear. Okay, Achtung, Achtung,
And number 13
attention.
is The Evil Within. The first game from Tango Gameworks is a little rough around the edges, but it makes up for it by being
Yeah, I never
scary as
played
hell.
this
The
myself.
game looks like a Resident Evil 4 knockoff, but your player character is way weaker. Ammo's
Oh.
scarce, aiming is slow and difficult, and even the most basic enemies can mess you up if you're not careful.
Oh no, I thought he was aiming with a controller, but I guess he was playing with M&K. Damn.
Tough and very disorienting. It's like
Oh,
Silent
hi.
Hill with an over-the-top grindhouse aesthetic where everything wants to kill you, and it's all very aggressive about it. The game literally starts with you hanging from a meat hook in a chainsaw man's
Ew.
murder basement, and when you try to escape, saw-like traps trigger. There are more than one nearly unkillable enemies that you have to sneak around,
Ow.
and bosses that can kill you instantly. It can be overwhelming at times, but overall, it's pretty satisfying, even if the sequel is in most respects a better game. The first game is scarier, and that's what matters most here.
Yeah, oh, but I think this is not a game for me. I would just pee my pants. I would just, whoa, be running away. Yeah, oh, and die. Yeah. Ugh.
And number 12 is Condemned: Criminal Origins, a classic Xbox
Condemned.
360 launch title from the makers of Fear. It created some of the most unnervingly realistic abandoned locations and filled them with dangerous, unpredictable psychos.
Oh my God.
The game's got combat, but you rarely ever have access to guns. You're mostly
Did
defending
he just
yourself
lose his
with
hand?
whatever you can find around the environment. There's a
Oh.
vulnerability to everything you do in this game, and compared to most horror titles of that time, you are not defenseless. It can almost feel that way sometimes when all you have is a crappy wooden board and getting stalked by hobos who hide behind walls and
the hell is
ambush you when
going
you're not
on?
looking. The most
Santa?
human enemies can make things tense, but let's be real here. It's the locations that make the game so memorably
What's
scary.
Santa
Places
here?
like the abandoned department store and the rundown school tap into a visceral aversion to these kinds of spaces that's in the human psyche. In some ways, the game is exploring the same ideas that make stuff like the back rooms scary to people, those mundane liminal spaces that can be boring and forgettable in a certain light, but when they're empty and at night and a little run down, they suddenly become pretty terrifying. The
Yep.
game doesn't stop there, of course. The game is trying to be scary by filling the department store with demented enemies who pretend to be display dummies before ambushing you out of nowhere, or the grotesque lunch lady in the school, but these things only really complement the horror. The location put us into the mindset to be scared in the first place.
Ew. Wait, but there's someone running around. Wait, what? Where did he come from? Okay, just smack. And smack. Hell yeah!
At number 11 is Resident Evil 7. This was the refresh the series needed.
Which one
a
is
new
this?
perspective and a renewed focus on horror. Depending on who you ask, this may be the scariest game in the series. Even if it's not necessarily the scariest entry, it's up there. Moving away from the increasingly over-the-top action of the previous games, 7 brings the action back to a creepy old mansion, but this time instead of zombies, you gotta contend with the maniacal Baker family.
Okay, so it is with a family,
an
okay.
Absolute standout. They're like if you combine the Sawyers from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre with the Deadites from Evil Dead. They're sadistic, they're seemingly unkillable freaks who make the opening few hours almost unbearably tense as you're forced to play cat and mouse with them. Certain early events straddle the line, I think intentionally, between horror and comedy.
Oh yeah, so I've watched a lot of people play this game, and this part, oh my god, I hated the birthday party. But yeah, never played this myself. I also don't think I will ever play this. I'm a big baby.
The moment where the main guy, Ethan, just goes, okay, fine, after finding a gun, after immediately getting his hand cut off, it's deadpan comedy gold. The game manages to have that Resident Evil absurdity, but instead of playing as a Special Forces badass, you're just a normal dude.
You're just a guy.
It changes the dynamic entirely, though, and it's great. It's a scary game normally, but
it's
in
a yellow
VR,
box.
it's a whole new experience. The immersion is just through the roof. If you have a headset and the intestinal fortitude, it's a must-play.
Yeah, I don't wanna ever play that on VR.
It's me. I know you didn't mean to hurt me.
You look fine, totally. Whoa!
Have done that!
Wait, what's her name? Mia? Was it Mia? Ew! Disgusting. Ouch. That kinda hurts. Okay, bye. Oh, okay. Never mind, she's coming. Oh!
Now, let's see how you feel.
Ouch. Ooh.
And number 10 is Darkwood. So much about what makes horror effective.
Wait, never heard about Darkwood before. So, okay, let's see what this is about, because I really never heard about Darkwood.
Is uncertainty. When you know how something works, it immediately becomes less scary. It's a common problem for horror games, how to make them mechanically complex but still retain that sense of unknown. Darkwood does it by never
Oh, never mind. I saw someone play this. Wait, I played it even myself through my brother's library. Yeah. But it was so unforgettable. Because I was so frustrated at it. Yes, I remember.
Beyond the bare minimum. After a disorienting prologue, the game drops you into the baffling main game. You'd think the top-down perspective would make the game less scary,
this.
But the way the world is rendered in deep shadows full of vague shapes, it only makes the game more alienating.
Never heard about this game before.
Survival, and that makes the game seem kind of like it's a directionless survival game, but it's not. It's got a narrative. It's a very weird and off-putting narrative.
Really?
Also, strange characters who may or may not be enemies are pretty much everywhere. Animals and monsters are trying to kill you, and strange creatures try to get into your house at night. These nighttime defense parts are some of the most terrifying things in Deadwood. You got a generator that's meant to keep out whatever's trying to get in, and you can border up the windows and block the doors, but inevitably something starts to get in. The fog of war means you're not going to see it, especially if you lock yourself up in a closet, cowering in terror, but there's something there, and it's hunting for you. Darkwood is a game that's a little difficult to get into. It can feel directionless and punishingly difficult, but it's actually a lot more forgiving than it first appears.
Really? Because for me, it really feels like super punishing, but if he says it's okay, guess I was just too stupid.
It's strange and often unpleasant, but it's one of the most interesting indie horrors in the last decade.
Oh. Anyone home? Help me? You can't see anything. Come closer. Oh, no. Ugh. I think I remember this. Wasn't this pretty much at the start? Because I remember I should have, like, not helped someone. Ouch. Oh, that's intense. Slap him! Slap him. Here we go again. Slap him. Do it.
At number 9 is Soma. I've talked about plenty of games that feature physical horror.
I love Soma. I love Soma. Never played myself because I saw so many people play this. Watched full playthroughs of this, so I know the plot twist at the end. But I love
Few
this
that
game.
are
It's
primarily
good.
psychological horror, and Soma has a little bit of both, but the part that's going to stick with you is something different. It's existential horror. Soma's one of those games that doesn't really seem that scary at first, but as the story evolves and what's actually going on becomes more clear, the implications of what's happening really start to worm their way into your mind. I'm not actually going to say what the story is because that'll give it all away.
Yep.
But the scenario the game ends in, it's so bleak. The final moments of the story are so horrifying and inevitable that it's hard to stop thinking about. The story of Soma sticks with you long past the memory of the robotic abominations that are actually trying to kill you. In comparison, the crushing weight of the existential questions, the actual monsters are nothing. They're scary. There are some tense moments involving them here and there. But the scariest part of Soma isn't any monster or jump scare. It's the bleak outcome and how it makes you feel.
Yeah, it's so effed up. I mean, this one says pathos, so... Okay. You've done goofed, sir.
At number 8 is Cry of Fear. This impressive Half-Life mod manages to do a lot with very little. There's nothing about it that really stands out. It's a game heavily inspired by Silent Hill, but the creepy, decrepit environments, the overwhelming darkness of everywhere you go, and the rare resources you get to defend yourself make it one of the most tense games I've ever played. For something that's completely free, it is really impressive. And in this case, the lo-fi visuals actually add to the experience, making everything more obscure and uncanny in a way that a more realistic modern game just wouldn't be.
Actually, never heard of this. Actually.
It still works just fine, even though it's pretty old at this point. It's got all the survival horror staples like limited inventory. You even have to save at specific points, and that adds to the tension. It's a surprisingly well-made game with some impressively freakish monsters, considering it's completely free. Cry of Fear is more fully featured and scary than a lot of full-priced horror games I've played.
Okay, gonna take... Gonna take a couple pictures. Who was that lady there? No one knows. Okay, Ron, take another picture. Oh, I don't want to look. I don't want to look. I don't want to look.
At number 7 is Resident Evil Remake. People complain about how quickly they remake games now, but look at this game. It came out 6 years after the original.
I played the original one like 2 years ago. I tried to play the original one. I was like, man, this was cheap. I'm gonna buy this. I regretted it so much. I think I played 3 hours, maybe 4, probably only 3 hours, but I regretted it.
Resident Evil, and it's night and day. The difference between the two games is mind-blowing. The remake is so much more creepy, more atmospheric, and obviously more detailed than the PlayStation 1 original. It all comes down to how fast technology was advancing back then. Things were changing and evolving on a month-by-month basis, very different to the way things are now, where huge graphical jumps take a pretty long time. The thing about the original Resident Evil remake is it's not just a simple graphical overhaul, it completely reinvented the original game and transformed it into one of the scariest games in the entire series.
Oh, great.
Zombies are actually dangerous because killing them isn't enough. If you don't burn the bodies, they'll eventually rise again.
Yeah, that's what people also told me. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna burn this. I'm gonna burn this one. And
so you just be
the doggos.
Suddenly, a zombie will spring to life and mess you up. They also introduced an entirely new enemy, the grotesque Lisa Trevor, a mutated hunchback wearing stitched-together human faces to hide its appearance. The game is already scary, and then they throw souped-up zombies and an unkillable stalker, and it's a lot more terrifying. Some of the later Resident Evil remakes are arguably better, but this original is still one of the best horror games around, even being as old as it is.
Is that the Stitch lady? No? Hi? Oh, well. Hello there. Okay, I'm gonna run. Bye. He's just running. He's just running.
And number 6 is Silent Hill 2. What can I really say about Silent Hill 2 that hasn't already been said? It's an all-time classic, one of the best horror games of all time. If you haven't played it, then stop everything.
Yeah, I only
play
ever
it.
watched
The
my
best way
brother
to play
play
it is
those.
by the GOG version. and apply the Enhanced Edition patch, which fixes most of the problems the PC version has, and you get the original and, in my opinion, superior experience compared to the changes Konami made for the Silent Hill collection. That's the ideal way to play, but honestly, it doesn't matter as long as you play it. It's
Holy
considered a
smokes,
classic
blood.
for a reason, not
Ew.
necessarily because of how scary it is, because it's not actually that horrifying. It's not filled with jump scares or pants-wetting moments or anything. Instead,
Really?
it's more of a kind of slow burn kind of horror it's atmospheric and creepy.
That is
rather
creepy
than
as hell.
Terrifying up front. The strange environments and dreamlike quality of the story really manages to get under your skin after
Wait,
a
why
while.
are you killing
Subject
her?
matter of the story goes on to be pretty disturbing, even
Ew.
in its relatability. It explores ideas that games at that time just didn't touch, and it did it in an artful way than most games do today. It's a game from a different era, but the presentation, the music, and story all feel surprisingly modern. It's probably because so many games took inspiration from it.
Sir, there's this thing there. Hello? What was his name? Ethan? Ethan, there's a thing there. Oh, that's the horror radio, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. So, just hanging out here? I don't know about loud, I'm not gonna lie. Ew. So is this his personal Silent Hill? That's creepy. Oh, don't do the thing with your arms. What? But that is a nice spot. Not gonna lie, that is a nice spot. Bonk. Ouch. Ooh, that's kind of satisfying, not gonna lie.
And number 5 is Fatal Frame. These games aren't really known.
Long pause. Fatal Frame, like one of the first horror games that I actually tried to play on my own. I have no idea how old I was. I was still really small. I threw my controller through my room, never touched this game ever again, and I only played for like, what, 10 minutes? Until the first ghost appeared, 5 minutes? I was like, okay, brother, here, play this. No,
For their
no,
haunting or
no.
complex
Hate it.
stories. But what
Hate
Fatal
it.
Frame games have in spades
Hate
is
it.
scares. The first 3 Fatal Frames
Hate
are
it.
scare factories designed so that you're always on edge. The main gimmick is the camera obscura, a special camera designed for fighting ghosts. And it's a good thing you have it because ghosts in Fatal Frame are unpredictable. They can appear
Yep.
almost anywhere and you never know if they're going to be hostile.
I hate those crawling women. There was a crawling woman under a house. Holy
Style or
hell.
not. Some of the best jump scares I've ever seen are in these games. There's some
Yep.
really creative and unexpected surprises lying around.
Yep,
Just
yep,
fighting
yep.
the ghosts in Fatal Frame is scary because you can't just take a picture and forget it. You need
Like
to get a
really
good shot
good
and
games.
do any real damage. You have to take a picture just as they're about to attack. When you don't know how a ghost operates, trying to figure out the best moment to take a picture can be really freaky. There's a lot of tension leading up to taking the picture. It's a unique mechanic that's pretty perfectly realized. All 3 games on the PlayStation 2 are good. Some find Fatal Frame 3 scarier. Some think that 2 has the best moments. Others prefer the original. I think it's pretty fair to say that the quality's pretty
That's
consistent
creepy as
for all
hell. Look
3.
at
They're all
that.
scary as hell. It's just by degrees
look at
which
that.
one
That's
is
creepy.
the most terrifying.
Oh, even the noises. No, I hate that. I hate that. Oh, wait. She's not taking a picture of the girl? Oh, that is so... Ooh. Well. Ah! That's creepy. Wait, so the little child doesn't care?
And number 4 is Silent Hill 3. It's not as haunting as the second game, but Silent Hill 3 is one of the most viscerally unpleasant horror games. of
Oh,
all
it's
time.
this
The
one.
big part of what makes it so effective is the protagonist, Heather Mason. She's not a stoic dude like Harry or James from the first game.
She's hot.
She seems more aware of what's happening around her.
She's
and her
hot.
horrified
Whoa.
reactions to the grotesque and bizarre things you see in this game make the horror a lot worse. For a game in 2003, the facial animations are still really impressive, and that realism
Ew.
really lets you see the fear in people's faces. In previous
Look at his duck
games,
face.
the other world could be strange and unnerving, but in this game, it's worse. Strange figures move around in the shadows, walls move like blurry flesh, overwhelming sounds play while bulbous, indistinguishable monsters run around. It can be overwhelming at times, even if the base game is still very much a Silent Hill game, so you're mostly stomping on monsters and solving puzzles. You're just actively trying to make this so much scarier this time around.
She
I
only
think
has
it's
an
the
eye.
freakiest game in the series. Silent Hill 1 and 4 certainly have their moments. They've got plenty of freaky stuff on their own.
Yeah,
but
but
I'm
this
focusing on the
one-
classic Silent Hill stuff like the other world and monsters, stuff like that. I think Silent Hill is the most horrifying in that respect.
Yup. I watched my brother play this game. I was so scared, man. Look at that. Look at that. It's creepy as hell. Like, look at reality and look at the other world. Look at that. What's that? Oh my god. Okay. Oh, she's losing HP. Shoot at it? Shoot at it? Maybe? I don't know. Oh.
And number 3 is Amnesia: The Dark Descent. After cutting their teeth on the Penumbra series, which could have easily earned a spot on this list, Frictional Games released their first big breakout hit, Amnesia: The Dark Descent. Going back to this game now with high expectations may
so
leave
this
you
is the
a bit
first one?
disappointed because it's still really just an indie game that got big, but it can't be understated just how important and influential this game is. It's not that they invented modern horror, because most of the mechanics of Amnesia are in different games, including their own Penumbra games, but they did pack them together in a way that made for a very thrilling and terrifying experience. In Amnesia, you play as a dude with, amnesia. You don't know why you're here or what's going on. You got to find your way out of this creepy mansion without letting the monsters get you. You got no means to defend yourself. All you have is a lantern, matches to light torches, and laudanum to restore your health, and that's it. That's all. That ain't a lot, but the game builds tension for a real long time, building up until slowly deploying the monster, and what happens is almost unbearably tense. Later, when you get to areas where
so there's a
patrol,
monster.
it's even worse. You can hide in the darkness, but staying in the dark too long damages your sanity, which is already dangerously frayed. Even looking at the monsters drains sanity, so you're encouraged never to even look at them, making them even more vague, mysterious, and threatening.
No.
Because at least when it first came out, you couldn't even tell what they were actually supposed to look like. It's a game that's less scary as you understand how it works mechanically, but until you do, it's pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah, but I'm really stupid. Like I'm really, really stupid. I never understand those games. Ooh, I bet they have Alien Isolation, right? I also never understood that one. Rage quit that after like, what, 12 hours?
And number 2 is Siren. Now, the original Siren is such an unpleasant.
Siren, oh my god. So, like, my brother played all of those games. All of those, what was it, PlayStation horror games? And I've watched him. And that one's so clunky, but so scary. But man.
It's super weird, and at times it's overwhelmingly scary. It's a game where almost nothing is certain at first. The odd controls, the randomly changing timeline, not even the protagonist. Instead of having any one main character,
you have so many
pinballs around between multiple player characters. It's like it's designed to be as alienating and off-putting as possible. The gameplay is really unforgiving, too. It's just a brutal game all around. Now take that, all of it, and mix in some grotesque and bizarre enemies.
I think in Siren 2 there was also one of those crawling ladies on a ship.
Crazy townsfolk of this cursed village who go about their daily lives and seem to have a will of their own before they notice someone who's not like them and see red. The thing I remember most about Siren is how oppressive the entire experience is. It's just so dark and the characters are mostly completely defenseless. The only ability to help you survive is sight jacking, where you can see through the eyes of anyone nearby, including the enemies hunting you. It sounds very powerful, but it's actually pretty difficult to get any kind of real spatial awareness in this cramped village, so often you feel like you're running blind, even when you know there are monsters patrolling nearby. It's a game that it's not going out of its way to be absolutely horrifying, it just is. There aren't a lot of jump scares or set-piece moments.
Yeah, but it's
a game
unforgiving.
that's carried by a deeply unsettling atmosphere. The droning music and the disorienting mission design, sometimes it can be a little too obscure for its own good, especially with some of the secondary missions, but it is a one-of-a-kind horror game. It's not just one of the scariest games on the PS2, it's easily one of the scariest games of all time.
Okay, they're not showing the crawling lady on the ship. Oh, Jesus!
What to do. My daughter has run off again.
Damn, Sam. Ew. Oh!
And number 1, it's Alien Isolation. It just doesn't...
See, my chat wanted me to play this, so I did it, but not for long. As I said, maybe 12 hours max. Oh my god, I hate it. I hate it. There's a monster. No.
Much scarier than this. By all accounts, it shouldn't work. I mean, even when this game came out, the Xenomorph was pretty old hat. It was just another cannon fodder enemy that you blew away by the dozens in every previous Alien game. So how are they going to make this one scary? Turns out, you don't really have to do anything special to make a monster scary. Just make it smart, unkillable, and have it constantly stalk you in one of the most oppressive environments of all time. They really take their time before going all in on the alien. The game
it took a while.
builds the thing up for hours before finally deploying it on you, and it is as intimidating as advertised. The impressive thing about the alien is that, unlike many other games, it still manages to be freaky as hell, even after the alien has killed you dozens of times, down to how difficult this can be to predict, and how unexpectedly it can kill you. What's even crazier is that the alien isn't even the only scary thing.
Yeah, that's the
worker
stupid
drill robots
cyborgs.
and their dead, beady eyes and monotone voices, they're terrifying all on their own, and they're nearly as dangerous as the alien. The fact you sometimes have to deal with both of these at the same time is almost overwhelmingly scary.
Ooh,
you rarely see a game as experimental but also high fidelity as this one. Yeah, it's clearly inspired by a lot of other horror games, but the way it combines stalker horror with resource management, an interconnected ship, and hard save points makes Alien Isolation a truly unique horror game experience. It stays scary even on revisits. That's just how scary a scare machine the Xenomorph can be.
Oh, I hate it. Yeah, but it never got me there, but okay, he had the BP out, so...
I do have a bonus for you. It's PT. It's an instant classic. It's one of the scariest game-related things ever, but you can't play it. Not the original version.
Not anymore,
That's been pulled from all storefronts. If you want to play it, you need an account that downloaded it in the past and has it on system storage, and that's it. I mean, there's fan remakes online, but they don't quite match up with the original. It's a teaser. It's fairly simple, but it was a standout horror thing that ended up inspiring a whole new wave of horror. So many modern horror games still owe it all to PT, including Resident Evil 7 and 8. I mean, they're not quite that and aren't really trying to be that, but you can definitely tell what effect PT had on everyone just by looking at those games.
Oh, hi.
So many games owe so much to PT, and it's a thing most people will never play, even if they want to. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like.
That's also it from me for today, guys. Goodbye. Bye-bye. I'm a big baby.